Not feeling so good today. Hit me yesterday. It was like, I don't know, 5 o'clock or so. Maybe 6. I was just like, fuck this. I went and laid down in the kid's bed. Passed out. Woke up. Went up into my room and passed out. Gotta pay for this driver somehow. Gotta go sell some drugs. Some woman about a half hour away from me, 40 minutes away. She's like, hey, can you ship these? And I was like, yeah, shipping's gonna cost $5, blah, 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 blah. So she sent me her address. And I was like, hey, wait a minute. You're only like 40 minutes away. I'll just bring them to you for the $5. Because if you take them to somebody, then they're more likely to buy more stuff from you. Instead of just shipping it where there's no options. Because, I'm such a nice guy. Oh shit, I forgot about that. I got the carnival this week. Best in business. Oh, Jesus. Oy vey. So, I had somebody ask me about an item. Hey, are you willing to negotiate? I can pick it up today. Yeah, sure. I'll give you $25 off asking price. Oh, okay, well, how about I offer you 30% of your asking price? What the fuck are you thinking? No. I even said, haha, no thanks. Like, what are you, crazy? What kind of insult is that? I'm going to offer you 30% of what you're asking for something. Just the audacity of people, and the only reason they do that is because it's worked for them in the past. So I guess you can't blame people, but Jesus, it's weird. It's weird. My wife should be reaching out to me any minute now. What the fuck are you doing? She hasn't woken up yet. And when she wakes up, she likes to go get her coffee first thing. And sorry, lady, chasing that money. So, now that we've gotten all the particulars out of the way, now that we've done our little bit of bullshit, where are all of my Israel supporters? I really wish bad things upon you. I'd love for you to identify yourself so we can bring all the juju down. Blah. I wonder how many old world buildings we'll pass on the way. Gotta love the old world buildings. I don't even have the other phone, so I can't look anything up. I really just don't. I don't know. It's strange because, for months now, I have been asking, not just that people tell me what I'm wrong about, but sell me on the whole Israel Jays are a good concept. Give me some good stuff that the Jays bring the world that warrants us continuing to accommodate their cult. And nothing ever comes. Nobody ever has anything good to say about the Jays. That's really weird. You'll have the people that'll be like, oh, I know a few Jays and they're nice to my face. Like, yeah, they're nice to your face. You can't have a cult that's so tremendously outnumbered and win through force. It's just not how that works. So they have to use, you catch more flies with honey and vinegar or whatever it is. They have to use the ruse to their advantage. They have to pretend like they're the good guys and be nice to you. And so many of you require them to fix you or legislate for you or whatever it is. But the craziest part is I went to school with a lot of them. I didn't know that's what they were. It wasn't a thing back then. We didn't talk about that openly. I went to school with a lot of them. And I've worked for a lot of them throughout my years, especially. I was in the service industry. Whether it was waiting tables or parking cars, that's who they were. And I was always the best at those jobs because I knew my role, I knew my position. I knew what they wanted to see and how they wanted to feel. They wanted to feel superior. They wanted to, they wanted their servant to be a servant, happy to be their servant. Not I hate doing my job, like people at McDonald's and shit. And so I was well aware of the dynamic that was at play. You're up here paying for me to do the work you don't feel like doing down here. I get that. If I was in your shoes, I'd do the same thing. So it was, and I hadn't gotten here yet. I definitely was the conspiracy theory guy. I was definitely the weirdo on the crew. But it wasn't until, I don't know, I'd like to say it's like maybe 13, 14, something like 2013, 2014, where I really started to realize, wait a minute. The deeper you dig, the more you find the same cult, same people. And yeah, you know what? The narrative has always been that they control the world, they control the money and all that stuff. And there has to be a reason for it. There has to be a reason why that's such a prominent narrative. And then it dawned on me one day that they've completely tricked us. They have us believing that saying that they have all of the money, the power, and the control is somehow a slur, a negative. It's akin to, talking bad about whoever, black people steal or Mexicans, whatever. It's a slur. It's along those lines. And I just how ridiculous is that? Can you imagine getting mad at somebody for telling you that, wow, you have a lot of money and it seems like you have a lot of power and control? Oh my God, how dare you? How dare you say such a thing? The reason they do that is to hide. It's a way of hiding. If it's acknowledged who actually has the money, the power, and the control, then we understand that, I guess my comment section's been shut down right from the get-go. And if you're commenting, hi, I don't know, I don't see it. I'm not getting any comments today, so that's interesting. But I mean, again, like, can you imagine just how ridiculous that is? And they hide in that way because if we know who has all the money, the power, and the control, then we see this as not just this chicken with its head cut off running around, accident sort of crazy society we live in. We actually see it as a manufactured narrative. It's this way on purpose. And who makes it this way? Well, the people with all the money, the power, and the control. And you can keep going with it. Like, well, how would that benefit them? How does that work? And you can just keep going with it. It's obvious. It's obvious why they would hide. It's obvious that they do have the money, the power, and the control. Like, it's interesting how what a powerful weapon ignorance is, and how heavily ignorance is pushed on us. Most people believe that, oh look, we do have comments. Most people believe in some sort of goofy ass God bullshit, Bible bullshit, right? And they don't even know why they believe it. They don't know, they don't know the background, the history of it. They just believe it because their moms and dads told them to, and and they don't want to upset the herd. They don't want their mom to be mad because, you start asking too many questions, especially questions that make your mom or dad feel stupid, and they're going to resist. They're going to have pushback. And if you're smart enough not to believe in the bullshit narrative that they do, they don't like that. And most people don't want to upset their parents. Most people don't even think of it like, they'd be like, well, I'm not really practicing. I don't really go to church or anything, but I'm definitely a Christian. I definitely believe in the Jesus. And it's, that cherry picking, that Monday morning quarterback religious person, that person's everywhere. But they don't even think much of it because it doesn't affect their lives, tremendously. They don't realize how much it affects their lives. They're not practicing, so they just don't, it is what it is. And wow, that's gonna be a big fucking monster house, Jesus Christ. But they don't realize that it's that underlying, that foundation, that just by you accepting it and therefore turning a blind eye because you don't want to upset your parents, you don't, some part of you believes that you'll go to hell for all of eternity if you don't, little things like that. So especially when you hear narratives about Israel, you're told that these are God's chosen people. And, you might not know enough about it, which, again, sparks your ignorance, sparks your resistance because you're ignorant. And so you just sort of accept it, You say to yourself, well, those are, I remember, I don't remember a lot from the narrative that was pushed on me, but I definitely remember that they are God's chosen people. They remind us all the time, and they play off of this narrative quite frequently. So I remember them being God's chosen people. This is a just-in-case sort of belief structure, so I definitely don't want to do something that's going to make God mad. So you just accept it. But it is strange, like I have, you have a really hard time finding proud Israel supporters. I don't know where the fuck they are. I know there are people out there that claim to support Israel, you know, on the surface or whatever, or they claim indifference. We actually had a few come on yesterday that said, oh, who gives a shit about what's happening over there, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's some horrible shit. That points to you being a real big piece of shit. Because I absolutely think Islam is a fucking problem. I absolutely think Christianity is a problem. But these are the servant religions. These are the servant cults. The main cult is the main problem. And that cult is who controls the world. And when you understand that again, it's not like it's even really hidden. You know, they call the three the Abrahamic religions, right? If they're the Abrahamic religions, then no, just the stupid people. I just ignore you stupid people. So don't feel special. Or maybe do feel special. I don't know. But if you, like, again, it comes from that ignorance where you just don't, you say it, but you don't realize what you're saying. If they all come from the same place person, Abraham, well, who is Abraham? Abraham is the father of the J people. Abraham is the main bad guy in the cult, or in the Bible. You want to believe that it's Satan, but it's not. Wow. Flower festival. God, it's busy as hell. Look at this. Look at the dumb comments. I don't know what that tells you. It tells me that we have a J invasion. Maybe it's my fault. It's my stupidity for thinking that come on, you can't be that big of a piece of shit, right? You can't be the type of piece of shit that doesn't give a shit about the genocide happening and you're not really that big a piece of shit. How's a group of people that spread the message of love thy neighbor bad? What? Who says love thy neighbor? And who cares what people say? It's what you do that matters. And just because you say love thy neighbor doesn't mean you practice it. And just because you say some things right, like love thy neighbor, which is, again, it's a kind of stupid thing, because what if your neighbor's a pedo? You're supposed to love that piece of shit? You know, these are these dumb little mantras that people end up repeating, but it's stupid. What are you talking about? There are going to be caveats and adjustments made in anything and everything. You can't just blanket apply love thy neighbor and it be okay. That's stupid. But then when you look at the death and destruction that's been brought, like the idea that Christianity is the good guy. Christians have made more slaves out of more people and killed more people than anyone else has, at the behest of Jays. Why do you need to be a part of a bullshit cult to be able to do the right thing in the first place? You really need some stupid book to tell you to love thy neighbor? And the reality is, thou shalt not kill. Well, I disagree with that. I think we should absolutely kill pedophiles. Absolutely, without question. Depending on what you do, if you fuck with a kid, and it's an appropriate conversation or something like that, that'll give you the jail time. That'll give you some sort of punishment. However, if you touch, violate, show up to a house, whatever it is, hey man, we kill you. We kill you. And again, if you're one of these people that thinks it's hilarious to talk about pedophiles and genocide and slavery, all you're doing is outing yourself. Feed. Regular people don't think that way. Normal people don't think genocide and pedophilia are just, oh, that's a funny little concept. You know, real people are disgusted by that shit. And you know, real people speak against it. They don't just, oh, it's funny. But it shows you, man. It shows you how desperate these Jays are to try to make the bad guy out of the person telling the truth. You know, we have to eliminate this menace. This is a fucking menace, man. And until we understand that it's not an option. I mean, it's you know, it has to be fixed. If it's not fixed, it's going to continue to destroy things. I mean, it's just awful. It really is awful that what's happening. I showed you guys videos yesterday. It's not, people love to say that it's Israel, or, you know, these are the things, oh my God, I can't believe you said that. But they do frown upon it. But if you say that Israel, you know, you're against Israel, people will, you know, they'll have an opinion or whatever, but it is what it is. This phrase that we've been given, that we're allowed to say, to express how we feel in a way. We don't actually, you know, we're not saying the truth and what we really mean, but, you know, it's that's insane. I'm in the land of the giants, boy. Yeah, somebody is in a submarine right now. That's believable. Because not only do submarines exist, but they also have really good Wi-Fi. You know, it's all the same shit, man. You keep seeing examples of exactly what I'm talking about. Who's gonna do that? Who comes into the feed, finds out the feed is about how we should kill pedos, how we need to eliminate the J slavery, how we need to, you know, stop the genocide, and they don't agree with any of it. They just say dumb shit. That's not a person I can understand. You know, it's not a person I relate to. And it only makes sense that it would be, you know, either a piece of shit Jay or a really brainwashed dumbass Goyim. I mean, who else could it be? I don't think I've ever come across somebody that, you know, that says, oh well, pedos deserve multiple chances, and, you know, that say anything, you know, other than kill them. I don't know of anybody that does that. Earth is scientifically and measurably flat. If you were on a submarine on the round Earth, you would have constant nose down. Yeah, I guess that's a good point. I mean, at the end of the day, if you want to know the shape of the Earth, then we have to stop the genocide. You know, that's the only truth here. We can argue all day about the shape of the Earth, but it's just a distraction in the long run. Because you and I don't have access to the readily available machinery and technology that could prove the point one way or another, we don't have access to that. The only way we get access to that stuff is if we overthrow the Jays that control our narrative. So you might not realize it, but you're on the same page as me. You're just distracted. I absolutely am fascinated by the earth shape argument, but I know that everything I'm allowed access to is just that. I'm allowed it. It's not that. Go ahead, yeah. It's not that. What the hell are you doing, bro? It's not that, oh shit. Oh, it's not like you have real information. They don't give us the real information. They only give us the information that they want us to know. And that's the key to it. What's up, Matt? It's almost disheartening when you understand it, but it also like frees you. It reminds you of the truth. Oh, I just updated phone, sorry for being late, and then sleep well either. No, never any need to apologize. It sucks not sleeping well. The J kept me away. Yeah, right there. I agree with you. Listen, I agree with you that there's more than enough evidence out there to prove that it's not about round ball. And the thing is, too, once you, like, accept that it's not a round ball, you realize just how stupid that narrative is. It's really a fucking stupid... Like, as much as I hate to admit it, the Jesus narrative, as much as it doesn't make any sense whatsoever and it's patently false, it makes more sense than the Big Bang Theory. The Big Bang Theory is just flat out stupidity. It's embarrassing to think I ever believed in such dumb nonsense. But that's the reality of it. Laser experiments always show the absence of curvature. Not always. Because all of that shit can be programmed. All of the experiments and everything like that can be edited to for whatever. But it's definitely the nothing from nothing. Just like your God. One of those arguments that Christians always make, but then refuse to accept it in their own line of thinking. Right? Like, obviously, you believe the same shit. You believe, because if you ask Christians, well, what made God? Well, God was always there. God always existed. How does that work? I guess that just covers for the stupidity of it, I guess. What came first, the chicken or the egg? What came first, nothing or God? And what made your God? It really is fucking stupid. But it's just as, like, the Big Bang Theory, it's embarrassingly stupid. When you think about what you're supposed to know, okay? So this is what all of you know, right? You know that the universe started with the singularity. And just like the singularity, or just like with God, you're not allowed to ask, well, what made the singularity? Just like with God, you're not allowed to ask, well, was the singularity like in the big empty warehouse? How does that work? The singularity was, did the singularity create all the black stuff too? Or was there just a big empty space with this singularity in it? Same thing with God. Was God, was it just this big empty warehouse? And then God sort of appeared in the warehouse and started putting the furniture where it wanted it to be? Or like, how does that even work? Yes, but a miracle as in the Big Bang is impossible. I mean, it really is so the singularity is because gravity, magical gravity, it has all of the matter in the universe. Everything you can see right now, everything you've ever seen, and everything that you can see and have ever seen is like 0.00000000001% of everything that exists, right? At least from the narrative you're told. The universe is this gigantic, ever-expanding place with billions and billions of stars and galaxies and all this other. So your own personal experience is just nothing. You've seen nothing compared to what supposedly exists in the universe. Now, I might actually lose you here for a minute because of where I am, so don't just bail. It'll be right back when it reconnects. But gravity is pulling every piece of the everything, all of the stardust, all of the bits into something that is supposedly smaller than the size of a match head. That's what they say. Smaller than the size of a match head. Everything in the universe condensed down into this singularity. And at some point, for some reason, we don't really know what caused it, but you know how like when you squeeze something and you squeeze something and you squeeze something and then it explodes? No. But that's what ended up happening. It was squeezed and squeezed and squeezed until it finally exploded. And when it exploded, now this is the part that's just so stupid. So if everything is as small as a match head, right? If you explode, the further out you go, the further apart the pieces are going to be. You know, if they were really, really close together at this point, by the time they get to this point, all of the pieces are going to be farther and further apart. And miles and miles away, it's just going to be miles and miles apart. But that's not what we're told. We're told that now, so first there's the flash, then there's the darkness period, then there's the period of star creation, where this Big Bang is just throwing up, in every direction. It's just throwing out debris. Every direction, everywhere you can go, debris is flying out everywhere. By the way, if you're watching, like, share, and sub. That helps out a lot. So it's throwing out all the debris in every direction, and amongst the debris, now there are gravity pockets. Now it's not quite strong enough gravity to pull everything in on a ball and make a new singularity. No, it's little gravity pockets that start to swirling and swirling. And as they swirl and swirl and swirl, they collect all of the stardust, and it starts to form clumps. Big clumps in the middle of it. Big fucking clumps. Clump, 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 clump. Now, some of those clumps can be the size of our sun, which we're told is, 400 times the size of the Earth. But they also like to tell us that if you've ever seen that video where it shows like the moon, then Earth, and then Jupiter, and then the sun, and then the next biggest star, and the next biggest star. Well, eventually they say, shit like Betelgeuse, the star Betelgeuse, is so big that you couldn't even see our sun next to it. That's how big they say Betelgeuse is, which is something you just can't fathom. You can't even begin to understand how incredibly big Betelgeuse would have to be if it made our sun look like nothing, at least according to the narrative we're given. But these clumps form together in all these all these different sizes, and then suddenly, out of nowhere, they just light themselves on fire in the vacuum of space, where there's no oxygen or anything like that. They end up lighting themselves on plasma fire, so they can just burn forever, or at least seemingly burn forever. We're told that eventually our sun will swell up and swallow up the inner planets, and just a bunch of stupid shit. But we're told that they light themselves on fire, and then they just perpetually burn forever. Now, around those magical burning star things, in a fried egg sort of pattern, flat out, because planets don't exist in different positions, it's all flat. Somehow, in a vacuum of space, there's still a top and a bottom. There's still a north and a south, which is it's just stupid. I mean, again, so much of this is just stupid, but you haven't realized it yet, right? You haven't let yourself, go through the whole process of what you're being told. So, around the star, the sun, the star, in concentric circles, now new gravity pockets just sort of form. And they get to swirling and swirling. And now this time, they collect a bunch of clumps, but these clumps don't light themselves on fire. As in Earth, the inside lights itself on fire. It becomes a liquid, hot goo that lights itself on fire. And then the outside, then it forms all these different jello mold layers. And then on the outside, we get water. And then, like with Earth again, at some point, a rock falls out of the sky, which makes sense. And on that rock is supposedly a single-celled organism that survives the entry into Earth and, crashes into the water. And then millions and millions of years go by as that single-celled organism becomes a double-celled organism, and then a quadruple, and then it just keeps multiplying until eventually it becomes fish. And then the fish, at one point, one of the fish, it's like if one of us, if a human just one day decided that we could breathe underwater and just went into the water and then just started making water people, basically that's what the fish did. The fish decided one day it can go out on land, and it went out on land, and it turned into dinosaurs. Big, giant fucking lizards. Some, huge fucking lizards that just dwarf anything that exists today. Huge, huge lizards. Some of which can even fly. Some of those fish turned into flying lizards, amazingly enough. And so these dinosaurs exist for hundreds of millions of years. And then one day, another rock falls out of the sky. And this time, it destroys everything. It's the death rock. This rock destroys everything. Not really sure if it's that, the small creatures that still existed on land that were able to survive the Armageddon event of the rock falling out of the sky. Not sure if they are the ones that end up turning into Augo. What's going on? What's up, Karen? How you doing? They're the ones that turn into the next round of creatures, or if it's fish, more fish come out of the water. But eventually, things turn into shit like lions and tigers and bears, oh my. Elephants and all kinds of shit, right? And then some more time goes, and eventually, the monkeys, the chimpanzees, to be Pacific, the chimpanzees, they turn into people. Now, tigers don't turn into people. Elephants don't turn into people. Hippopotamuses don't turn into people. But monkeys turn into, chimpanzees turn into people. And, you know, the people exist for a really long time. Somehow they able to map the stars and, you know, all this other bullshit that just, but here we are. We learned how to fly about 100 years ago, and now we know everything. We know about the Big Bang. We know blah, blah, blah. We know all that shit. Now, that is dumb as fuck, right? That is even dumber than the idea that, you know, God just fucking got bored one day and was like, I need people to worship me. So I need to make somebody to tend to this Garden of Eden I've created. Right? Like it's fucking ridiculous. But this is the narrative they give us. You know? You get to pick one of those two fucking things to believe. And everything else is crap. But those two things are those are the big dogs. Those are the ones that make the most sense. Now, you have to excuse me for just a moment. Talk amongst yourselves. Have a nice conversation. Remember, we hate the J, so I'll be white black. Jesus Christ. That took a lot longer than I wanted it to. Oh, Alright. I guess I got what I got. Whatever. I'm cool with it. Alright. We are back. Sold my drugs. Because, I'm always selling drugs. I sell the drugs, man. I got this woman, it was interesting, right? This woman, not only did she buy from me now, I want her to buy more from me, and she's planning on it, right? But she says, she ends up buying some old tobacco cards. And she says, she says, well, I just really love history. And she starts going into some stuff, and I have such a hard time because, I say to her, like, look, I'm at this point where I kind of don't believe any of it. I think they're lying. And I asked her if she had heard about Tartaria yet, and she said no. And obviously, if I'm gauging the whole thing by our interaction. Like, am I gonna say, hey, well, come check out my feed, we talk about this kind of stuff. And at one point she talks about the Holocaust survivors and how this kid is going around and interviewing all the Holocaust survivors. We got to get it on. And I just, once you start going that way, like, I can't be real with that broad because I want her to buy from me. So I don't want her to be stupid and get upset that I don't believe what she believes. But obviously that narrative is just bullshit. And everything that we're taught that we have to believe. It's not like it's a choice. It's not like we're given options. We're told we have to believe these narratives, or else we are crazy conspiracy theorists, or we are, bad guys in some way or another if you don't believe exactly what you're told to believe. And I even told her, look, I think my family is Operation Paperclip. And she was like, oh, but she's talking about like grants and the Civil War and my family's from the South and we're really proud and I'm glad I know my history. And I was like, yeah, but the Confederacy only lasted 4.5 years and it got its ass kicked. Isn't there something else that's a better representative of your Southern pride and Southern history than that hate bullshit? But again, when you're the seller and you want to have more sales, you kind of have to pull back on it. But just as always, look at the comments. Look at how intelligent the comments are. Because they can't actually debunk anything I say, because they can't make any reasonable arguments. They're like it's almost like you're making fun of children born to bad situations. Like, your stupidity is bleeding into your ability to make any sort of comments. And it's just interesting how you have to ask yourself, the people watching have to ask yourself, what is it about what I'm saying that has so many people so mad at me that they're going to say these dumb things instead of just addressing what I'm getting wrong? Why won't they just address what I'm getting wrong? Of course, we have people that have say, submarines are real because I've seen them. Yep. You've seen boats. I agree that you've seen boats. And it's interesting. This is a great example of just how stupid people are. Right? Because you've seen something in a harbor, a boat floating at the top of the water, or you might have even seen one where most of it goes underwater, but you're far away, so you can't really see much of it. You believe told. You don't bother to just think about just simple shit. You know, by the way, like, share, and sub if you're watching. Helps out. But you don't think about simple shit like pressure. Like the weight of the ocean on a tin can. I always challenge people, especially now that it's getting warmer, right? Just next time you go to the beach, take a 2-liter, put the cap on it, and then see if you can swim that 2-liter down to the bottom of the water. Down to, you know, get in the water where it's over your head a little bit or whatever. Even if you're like wading in the water waist deep or whatever. See how much effort it takes to put that 2-liter down below the surface of the water at any distance. And then, you know, swim out a little bit and see if you can swim it down to the bottom of the water at 10 feet. I already know you can't, but I'd love to see you try. You can even fill that 2-liter with like, you know, a quarter of the way or half of the way with water and see how easy it is to sink that thing. It's really fascinating, you know, especially if you're someone that's gotten to the point where you're questioning space travel. Like if you don't buy the space travel narrative, which is dumb as fuck, don't get me wrong, space travel is dumb as fuck. Like I said, the whole Big Bang Theory is dumb as fuck. It just doesn't make any sense. It's so stupid. But if you question space travel and you're not questioning submarines, like if you don't believe they can fly in the air without the pressure of all the weight of the ocean pushing on every direction, why would you believe that submarines exist? Big old giant, you know, they're the size of 80 school buses, and they could stay underwater for 6 months at a time, and it's just stupid. It's just stupid. So much of what you believe is stupid, and if you believe a bunch of stupid shit, that makes you stupid. You might be someone that can figure things out really easily. You might be mechanically inclined. You might actually be a smart person. But because they have you believing in stupidity and then regurgitating that stupidity, you're stupid and you don't even realize it. You know, when you believe that rocks fall out of the sky, shit like Halley's Comet, just think about this. So, without gravity, right, the planets would fly off into space because they're revolving around another object. And according to the narrative, the Earth is going around the sun at 67,000 miles per hour. Can't even fathom that speed. But if the sun has enough hold, you know, enough gravity to keep that Earth going 67,000 miles per hour around it, Jupiter is a lot bigger, right? So if Jupiter is a lot bigger, that means it would require more force to hold it to the sun, to hold it in its place. Well, if there's enough force to hold Jupiter in its place, how come it doesn't pull the inner planets in? It would require a lot more force to hold Jupiter in its place than it would Earth. So why doesn't Earth get sucked in? Because of the force needed to hold Jupiter in place. It seems crazy, right? But when you actually sit back and think about it, and you apply common sense, you start to realize, like, holy shit, a lot of what we believe is stupid. It doesn't make any sense. And this woman said, you know, I'm just sick of people trying to erase history, and the thing is, you can't erase it. And it's like, she doesn't even have this concept that she doesn't know shit. She knows the stories that she was told. She doesn't know anything about history. She wasn't there. She didn't see it. She's definitely not getting every side of the narrative when she's reading whatever account she's reading. Really? Go, man. What are you doing? Fucking stupid ass. Good thing my driver has good reflexes. Good job, driver. You just, it's strange how willing we are to be deceived. All of you religious people, you literally have no reason to believe your narrative. And in reality, the official like history narrative that you're given completely destroys your Jesus bullshit. And yet, because you want to, because I guess you're not comfortable with death and you arrogantly want to live forever, you then accept the religious bullshit. And I, like it's something I almost said to that woman when I was trying to maintain a relationship. I'm not arrogant like you guys are. Most of you are a hell of a lot more arrogant than I am. You might want to say I'm arrogant, but I'm not. I'm confident. I don't think I can just beat anyone in basketball just because I'm awesome. I don't think that I could do your taxes better than a fucking, somebody who specializes in that or, whatever. I'm very confident in the specific arena that I'm in because I've put the work in, But so many of you are just, you've been made to be these arrogant fools and you don't even know it. So many of you think that you can discern between what narratives you're given from the story, from the system that gives us our narrative, which narratives are true and which ones are fake. That's how arrogant most of you are. And unlike you guys, I'm much more confident in saying it's all bullshit. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I can pick and choose which things are true and which ones aren't. You guys do. You guys arrogantly do that shit. And, I'd love to know what you based it on. So many people today will talk shit about government or whatever it may be. Certain elements, like Trump supporters. Trump supporters are the best, right? Because they think, when you listen to a Trump supporter talk, they talk about all of the other government shit correctly. It's all bullshit, it's all corrupt, it's all this, it's all that. Except when it comes to their buddy Trump. When it comes to their buddy Trump, then for some reason, he's not a part of the same system. And you know that. You know that because the narrative you've been shown has kind of told you that. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how people think that Epstein's best buddy isn't part of the system, But of course, you're always going to get the Trump 2028 people. These people are fucking stupid. These are always the America first people. America. But then it's that Trump is destroying the First Amendment, right? Trump doesn't give a shit about the Constitution, and Trump is destroying the First Amendment. All five elements of the First Amendment are being affected by Trump's legislation. You should be angry about this. Freedom of speech, the freedom to assemble, the freedom to protest, the freedom of religion, and what's the other one? Freedom of press. Did I say that? Whatever. And they're doing it not because of something that benefits America, not because of any American kind of shit. It's all about Israel, a foreign country. Where's the America First attitude when it comes to Israel? Where's the inquisitive nature? Where's the scrutiny, the doubt? Where is all that when it comes to Trump and Israel? It's just, you just shut down. But you'll say that every other president is a patsy. Every other president is is paid for by the lobbyists and blah blah blah. You'll say that about everything else but this, because again, you're so arrogant that you think it's okay wailing at that wall, right? They're so stupid. Oh my God, they're so stupid. They are the worst people in the world by far. They are just disgusting, disgusting, horrible people. And their rituals are just a whole new level of disgusting. Especially the most important ritual in their cult, which is Brit Milah, followed by Matitza Bipa, which is circumcision, followed by suction. Like, what is wrong with you people? Why would any of you accommodate that kind of bullshit? Would any of you ever go to a bris and watch as this strange man puts his mouth on a baby's penis? Are you fucking kidding me? Why are we okay with that shit? Oh, well, it's a ritual bullshit. Who gives a fuck? That shit needs to change, and change immediately. But it's very important that they do so. It's the most important ritual in their fucking cult. And what is wrong with you people? Why would any woman be a part of that cult knowing that your vagina is said to be toxic? The funniest thing about Trump too, and same thing with Elon, I saw this congressman say it. If everything they're doing is so above the board and everything is so good for everyone, why don't they ever explain it? Why don't they ever lay out the plans and why don't they use transparency? I will curse you for 1,000 years. Go fuck yourself. You have the power to curse me, yup. You, some random dumbass, has the power to curse me for 1,000 years. I guarantee I don't have much more than 40 left, so that's gonna be 960 too many. This is just insane. This is insane. We should be proudly, expressing our anti-Semitism. Like, I encourage any of you to prove me wrong on this. Go look up what Semitism means. Go look up Merriam-Webster definition of Semitism. Merriam-Webster being, the old standard, the Webster's dictionary. Go look up what they want you to know. Because Semitism is, number 1A is a characteristic feature, a Semitic character, some shit like. Number 1B is a Semitic language, character and language occurring in another language, whatever. Number 2 is policy or predisposition favorable to Jays. No, I'm not. I checked this to disprove your reasonings. I am very, very anti-cult. I think that shit is disgusting, and I'm proud of it. I don't know why anybody wouldn't be. If you're not a part of that cult, you literally, like, they hate you. You have no business supporting that bullshit. But even if you are a part of it, like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Do you not understand what's going on? Do you not understand the shit that they do, the rituals and shit? How does anyone support that bullshit? I can't figure it out. Other than you're told to and you don't want to be ridiculed and all that shit. But it's just horrible. Look up Operation Cast Thy Bread, right? Go look up Operation Cast Thy Bread. It's how Israel was initially, established. They poisoned the drinking water systems, especially in a town called Acre. That's like the first town to be taken over when Israel was being established, is the town of Acre. Village, whatever you want to call it. And Acre, they poisoned the water system. It's called Operation Cast Thy Bread. Documented. And they poisoned the drinking water. They'd be easier to take over. Like, who's okay with that? Look up the Samson option. The Samson option is let's see. The Samson option is the Israeli deterrence strategy, and you got to listen to how it's worded. It's a deterrence strategy. So it's something that they put out there to if you do this, you'll be grounded, kind of thing. But the strategy is the threat that if Israel is ever invaded and or destroyed, that they'll launch their nukes in every direction and kill everyone. They'll commit genocide. The people that are currently committing genocide promise that they will commit more genocide if they're ever threatened. Which then, it doesn't matter whether nukes are real. It doesn't matter if they have them or not. If you believe it, then you won't do it. And that's what the deterrence strategy is. It's putting out, a line of horseshit to keep them safe. To keep anybody from thinking they might be able to do something. And they openly do this. No other country in the world has this on the books. Yeah, if we ever feel threatened, we're going to launch nukes in every direction. But that's okay, Look up Team Jorge. If any of you really want to, look up Team Jorge. Giggity. By what, 10 feet deep? That's not a real submarine, like we are taught. Yeah, no, submarines are stupid. They obviously have boats where most of the boat can go underwater. Under the surface, 10, 20 feet maybe. But they don't have the other shit. But that doesn't much matter. These are just more and more distractions to keep us focused in the direction they want us focused. That's it. But look up Team Jorge. Isn't it funny how I've been talking about Team Jorge for such a long time and yet nobody ever comes to debunk it? Mutually assured destruction. Yeah, we had that. The Russians and the United States used to have the mutually assured destruction thing, but it was more like, it was like, well, we won't launch our nukes if you don't launch your nukes, because it's, If you launch your nukes, then we have to launch ours, and that would be mutually assured destruction. That's that's sort of similar, but it's not the same as saying if we're ever invaded or or destroyed, then we'll launch our nukes in every direction. That's a whole different thing. You are being gang stalked. Of course I am. For what? So what's the motivation behind the gang stalking? Right? I'm the guy that thinks we should kill pedophiles, stop genocide, and end the slavery of the Goyim by the Jays. Are you telling me there's not a better candidate to be fucking gang stalked? Why would anyone try to interfere with my feed knowing that that's the goal? Killing pedos and stopping genocide. What does that say about you as a piece of shit person if that's what you're willing to do? How come these people never gang stalk the news? How come these people never gang stalk, government officials and whatnot, trying to get them to change the laws, trying to get them to change the pedo laws to something much more severe? Why do these gang stalkers, these Team Jorge gang stalkers, why do they only seem to target people like me? And if you look up Team Jorge, Jorge, you'll see that Israel openly, admittedly controls social media. Look up Naftali Bennett, former Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett, being interviewed right when Wikipedia went online, and how he says that Israel has all its people, has people over at the Wikipedia offices showing the editors and the monitors how they want stories to be edited and monitored. And he flat out says, if somebody looks up the Palestinian Brigade or some shit like that, that he wants the people to see their version of it. But Team Jorge is flat out. They have 30,000 plus, they had in 2022, they had 30,000 plus troll bots, bot farm troll accounts that they would use to interfere with anybody, or that they do use to interfere with anybody that goes against Israel. Again, we have these dumb trumpets, these Trumpanzees who, I guess you like the First Amendment being destroyed. You like all of our money being given to Israel, stolen from us and given to Israel. You're okay with that shit. You're okay with sending American kids, I hate saying children, but kids, teenagers and early 20s, off to die to fight for Israel bullshit. Think about how crazy that is. Think about how stupid you have to be. You're a proud American, but you're okay with sending our boys and girls off to go die for Israel? Why? What is it? You'll say things like Israel's our greatest ally if you're dumb. Usually they don't even bother saying that shit anymore. But if you're stupid, you'll say shit like Israel's our ally. And how? Where? If anybody can show me how Israel benefits the United States in any fucking way whatsoever, I'm all ears, man. Let's hear it. But you'll never see that shit. You'll never see anyone who, even claims to be intelligent enough to know things like that. They just say the blanket stupid shit. Well, they are our ally. They are our greatest ally. As long as we keep paying them. Why do you think that is? Who do you think makes that decision? Who do you think controls that narrative? It just shows you how the average Trump supporter is just a racist. That's all you're a racist piece of shit. You're a bigot. You're a homophobe, you're sexist, you're all these things, but you're not, proud enough to actually say that. So instead, you hide behind Trump, because Trump is the representation of all those things. He's the epitome of all those things. So now you say, oh yeah, I support Trump. And you ask people, well, why do you support Trump? And other than a few, again, blanket sort of comments, they have nothing. They don't know why they support Trump. At least they can't express why they support Trump. And then if you say it's because you're a dumb bigot, you're a homophobe, you're sexist, whatever, they deny. No, I'm not. Then what is it? You're a coward. You're an absolute coward because, you support this man because he says things you're not willing to say. You have some old piece of shit on here talking about what a tard. Who even calls people that shit anymore? That shows you the type of person I'm talking about. That they still say the word retard or tard or something. You have to be a piece of shit to say stuff like that. You can't come up with anything else. You have to insult other people in order to get your burns out there. These, by the way, if you're watching, like, share, and sub. Clearly it helps out, so keep doing it. Do something about it. If you're a Trump supporter, then explain why you are. Be proud of yourself. Be the proud bigot that you are. Be the proud pedo that you are, right? Because we all know Trump's a big pedo. Oh yeah, I'm a pedo. That's it. Show me any proof you can that I'm a pedo. Show me. Show me any registry, any story, any sort of anything that proves it. Especially along the Trump lines. Because the Trumpanzees don't like talking about Katie Johnson now, do they? Most of you don't know about Katie Johnson, right? Katie Johnson is the 13-year-old girl that Trump and Epstein raped on at least four occasions. Why don't you guys know about it? Because the story came out in June of 2020. And in June of 2020, you were completely distracted by COVID. That thing that Trump locked us down for? Trumpanzees love to forget that Trump is who locked everyone down. They love to blame Biden for the lockdown, like Biden was in office when it happened. It's pretty simple, man. I'm talking about a bunch of regular, very well documented shit. If I'm wrong about something, you should be able to stick with the point and tell me exactly what I'm wrong about. It shouldn't be so difficult, but yet it always seems to be. Instead of addressing anything that I'm getting wrong, people want to talk about my hair, my fucking, I don't know, whatever they want to talk about. Sweet. You know what? Trumpanzees, they're as stupid as their leader is. Because again, if you go watch the debates, he got his ass kicked by Biden, and Biden was stumbling and stammering all over the place. Old ass fucking man who's probably dead at this point. But Trump got his ass kicked by Biden, let alone Kamala. Kamala just roasted him. But you guys don't want to talk about that. You know? The Biden debate. Just remember, prior to the Kamala debate, it was the Trumpanzees that were saying, Kamala is too scared to debate. She only wants one. She's scared. And the Kamala campaign was like, no, we only need one. We only need to do one debate. I'm down for more, but we only need to do one. After the debate, they immediately start asking the Trump people, like, when do you want to do the next debate? And he's like, oh, well, we might want to hold off on that a little bit. Suddenly after getting his ass kicked, Trump's like, oh, maybe we shouldn't do this. How crazy is that, right? Like, how crazy is it that the Trumpanzees continue to support this piece of shit? This guy was Epstein's best buddy. You know? This guy's the guy that refuses to release the Epstein files. I thought he was all Johnny Transparency. This guy's the guy who said, is it wrong to be more attracted to your daughter than your wife? There are multiple pictures of Trump with his daughter like grinding up on him and shit. There are multiple pictures of Trump hanging out with Diddy at the Diddy parties. But for some reason, the Trumpanzees just don't like talking about that, right? Our country was built on God. Oh, the stupidity that people say. I can't make any reasonable argument, so I'm going to say something stupid. It's just amazing. It's amazing how stupid people are. And of course, the dumb Trumpanzee always thinks because you know the negatives about Trump and you express the negatives about Trump and they can't debunk the negatives about Trump, then you must be a Biden supporter. Because they're dumb enough to fall for the, pick one, left or right. I'm going to slap you with the left hand or I'm going to slap you with the right hand. Which one do you want me to slap you with? And they're not smart enough to be like, well, I don't want to be slapped, so I'm not picking either. They think they're smart because they say, well, what hand are you? Oh, I'm right-handed. Okay, well, I'm going to pick the left hand because I think you probably can't hit as hard with the left hand. I'm smart. You pick left or right like it fucking matters. You fall for the actors that they supply to you. They gave you 3 choices, two and a half choices this time. The third party, never gonna win anyway, alternative choice was Jill Stein. Jill Stein. No need to ask who Jill Stein supports. Oh, Jesus Christ. Are you kidding me? Kamala had a J vice president and a J husband. No doubt who they support. And Trump, Netanyahu's bitch ass said that Trump is the greatest friend that Israel and the Israeli people have ever known. So what, you didn't have a choice there. It was just bullshit. Everyone keeps slaying lies, but where's your proof? Oh, well, here, let me show you this. Shut the fuck up. Just go look. Why don't you tell me what I'm wrong about instead of requiring that I show you some, some pictures of proof? Like, what are you, stupid? Just go look it up. If I'm wrong, it shouldn't be this difficult for you to show me. You should be able to pick apart everything I'm saying and make me look like an idiot. You should do to me what I'm doing to you and your stuff. But you never seem to be able to. You never seem to be able to. Yep, I'm ducking because how am I supposed to show anybody proof of anything? What am I supposed to break out my second phone that I don't have on me and then look up all the things and then, because if I do that, which I've done many, many times, then you just find another excuse for why it's not true. Or actually, you don't even say it's not true. You just come up with some other excuse. None of you can debunk anything I'm saying, which should tell you a lot. Like, what, I just made all this shit up? I just made up Katie Johnson. Yep, I made up that name. I made up the whole narrative. I made up the fact that it got to court. Trump and Epstein were considered defendants. The only reason that didn't go any further is because the Katie Johnson camp pulled out because they were getting harassed. They were scared. But hey, you know, that's not true. Trump is a good guy. The thing is, Trump is just another fucking actor. He just reads the scripts he's given. He's just a dumbass. My favorite is how stupid Trump is, and that whenever he's reading something, he'll be like, you know, he'll be reading it, talking about, you know, and the budget and the whatever. I don't watch enough Trump, but he'll be saying something like, you know, the wall is being built and this and that, and it's the and oh yeah, and that's true. Like he'll stop reading to say, and that's true. I agree with that. Didn't you supposedly write it? Isn't this your shit? Why are you agreeing with yourself? If you're not just reading a speech that somebody else wrote, why do you feel the need to agree with it? Only a bot can change their name that fast. Of course. This is Team Jorge. Go look up Team Jorge. Any of you. Tell me what I'm wrong about. You would think Team Jorge would be like the biggest story in the world, right? When it's proven that Israel controls social media, and that they have, like, because you'll see stories about Facebook bragging, Zuckerberg bragging about how Facebook goes out of its way to eliminate bot profiles and bot farm accounts. You know, they love to brag that that they've eliminated 1,000 bot farm, a troll farm, a bot farm. They eliminated 1,000 accounts out of China, or 800 accounts out of the Philippines, and they brag about this shit. While you have Tal Hanen, who is the former Israeli Secret Service member who runs the Israeli Black Ops organization known as Team Jorge, just one of those organizations. And Tal Hanen brags about having 30,000 bot profiles at his disposal. How many Israeli Black Ops organizations are there that specialize in cyber espionage and all that shit, hacking? And we don't know. They don't tell us. We do know that one was completely exposed by, you know, a bunch of news organizations, and then bragged about having 30,000 bot profiles at their disposal that they use to manipulate public opinion, that they use to attack critics. How many more fucking Israeli Black Ops organizations do they have off the record that do the same thing? But you'll never hear Facebook or Zuckerberg bragging about how they got rid of a bunch of Israeli profiles. Why? If on one hand you have one guy bragging about 30,000 fake troll accounts, and on the other hand you have Zuckerberg bragging about how they got rid of 1,000 accounts out of China, like, how do you not see that there's something wrong here? It's all really obvious if you just look. Because they're stupid. Israel, the Jays are stupid. They have this standing policy that if you open, a few years ago, the UN was saying that they were going to open the books. This is just before Netanyahu and his supremacist coalition was put in charge. They were saying that the UN was going to do an investigation into the occupation because it on record it's supposed to be a temporary occupation. That's what those settlements are. But obviously it's colonization is what they're doing, and they do that all over the world. You just only hear about it in Gaza. But when the UN was saying they were going to open the books and start looking into things, the Israelis made a statement saying, if you open the books on Israel, you demonize Israel. Well, if Israel is the good guy and they're doing nothing but good things, you shouldn't be able to demonize them by looking into their past. They should be proud to have people look into their past, because look at all they've accomplished. Look at how they've helped people. Look at all the good they've done. That's not how it works. But they're dumb enough to say those things. If you open up the books on Israel, you demonize Israel. And they think that that's a good statement. That's how stupid they are. The Jays are stupid as fuck. I'm telling you, they are the dumbest fucking the dumbest people in the world. And they know it. That's why they do what they do. But they're also arrogant as fuck. And they think that we're too stupid to see through it because, we're just dumb goyim, this, that, and the other. And generally, I guess they're right. But they say stupid things. If you open up the books on Israel, you demonize Israel. And if you look at so many of these comments, right? If you look at so many of these comments, it's the same kind of shit. It's just a different wording of it. But they just point to how stupid they are. Every single comment that doesn't address what I'm saying, and then, oh, you're wrong about this, and here is why, is basically saying you're right. You're right about what you're saying, and I'm not smart enough to tell you what you're wrong about, so I'm going to say something stupid. Everything they say is stupid, and it shows you just who's behind these profiles. All these profiles that are mad at the guy that thinks we should eliminate the J control scheme, the cult that controls the world, that we should kill pedophiles, and that we should stop genocide. Really? There's just a whole ton of people that are here and they're mad at me for that. Yeah, there's no point in wasting the time, man. It's just a bunch of bot bullshit. And you know that, because once you're here long enough, you start seeing that they do up the same things. They say the same things from account to account. Their typing style and the way they express them, it's all the same. And they just prove to you that it's one bot after another. How many of you have multiple YouTube accounts with fake profiles? How many of you do that? I know when I have my profiles, I have to take a picture of my ID and shit. And the name has to match and all this other bullshit. How do these people even have these extra accounts like that? Just Team Jorge bullshit. And the thing is, when you look at it kind of ignorantly, it doesn't even make much sense. Most of you have seen all sorts of live feeds. You've seen how the live feed goes and what people say and all that. You've never seen anything like you see on my feed. Why do you suppose that is? Especially considering the fact that, I'm talking about killing pedophiles and shit. Who doesn't support that? And yet, on my feed, you're going to have fake profiles that will come here for hours every single day, desperately trying to get my attention. Does that make sense? Is that what any of you real people do? You go looking for profiles that you disagree with and then stalk them day after day, week after week, month after month, saying stupid shit, not even addressing what it is that has you so upset in the first place, just saying stupid shit. I doubt it. I doubt it. I know I never do. If I do happen to watch a profile of somebody talking shit and I don't agree with them, I flat out tell them what I don't agree with. I challenge them. You know, I come at them with information and shit, trying to get them to prove me wrong. But that doesn't happen my way because I'm wrong. Because I'm crazy. You're crazy. You're just rambling on YouTube. Yup. Yup. That's how that works. Just a crazy rambler. By the way, if you're watching, please like, share, and sub. It helps out. Just got done selling all these drugs. I'm always selling drugs. Oh. Oy vey, good morning. How are you, my son?
Good, Dad.
What's happening? Sleep good?
Yep.
Good, good. Your brother's still sleeping?
Yep.
When did you get up?
About a half hour ago.
Wow.
Dad, I thought you were still.
Nope. What sense would that make? Yep. You know, it just doesn't seem like it should work this way, right? If I'm wrong about something, then that should be the focus. Not what I look like, not where I live, or, you know, any of the other dumb shit, but just focus on what I'm getting wrong. Help me, educate me. Help me understand so I don't continue to get the same things wrong. That's what I'm doing. I'm trying. No, school's not out for summer. Nor is it out forever. Just the way it is for right now. Ugh. Oh. Jesus Christ. Oh, Jesus Christ. You do something.
Can I play a game?
Oh, no.
Why?
It's not time yet. You know, it's bad parents. We don't let our kids play video games first thing in the morning. You gotta wait till 11. You know, because we're bad parents. No. At the end of the day, there's a genocide happening. There isn't too much that matters more. There isn't too much out there that needs attention more than the fact that there's a genocide happening. Where the psychopath... What's up, duty? Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. You know, there's a genocide happening, and it's the most widely broadcast, like openly broadcast genocide in history. The genocide seen by the most people ever, and yet it's the most denied genocide ever as well. And it's just strange. But it fits. It's like it's what they do. You know, they don't explain why they're justified in the genocide. They don't explain, you know, why they're the good guys. You know, why their cult is so special that it deserves so much favor in Semitism. They don't explain any of that. You guys have the phone?
Yes. He's checking this game.
Yeah, you can just wait.
Can I finish checking
Nope.
it? Can I finish checking the game? One game?
Nope.
You
got a half hour.
What?
You got a half hour.
But you're gonna check. But you're gonna have your.
You know, it's. I've been doing this for quite some time. Where, you know, I go live. I I put Israel into the Google machine, and I just read what comes up and click news and just read what comes up. If there were good Israel stories, then they would be there. But there's not. There never is. And that should be eye-opening at the very least. Like, do you not understand that if they could say better things, they would? You guys want to see? Let's check. Let's look at. So we'll put Israel into the Google machine. We'll click news. Israel announces major expansion of settlements in occupied West Bank. That's the first story that comes up. Now, it kind of says everything. I mean, I'm sure it's a much more gruesome story than the title says, but they announced a major expansion of settlements into the occupied West Bank. Illegally occupied territory, they are expanding it, despite the fact that people live there. This isn't like some unoccupied area. Israel confirms plans to create 22 new settlements in occupied West Bank. Gosh, that's so strange, isn't it? Israel announces new West Bank settlements despite sanctions threat because they don't give a fuck. It's this what's happening isn't like it's just happening and we just don't know how to curb it. We don't know what to do. How do we stop this thing? It's just the way the fucking ball rolls. No. This is a very carefully crafted plan. And this bullshit about, oh, we're going to threaten sanctions again, sanctions that don't actually come true. But hey, at least nobody can say that the U.S. is doing nothing about it. They're threatening sanctions. What should we read? BBC, The Guardian, or Reuters? Well, considering Reuters is like it's the AP and Reuters is who supplies these stories to everyone, we should probably check it out. Funny, whenever it's Reuters, you never get to actually see who wrote the story. It's just Reuters. They don't want to show you that it's some dumb J. They got a video for us? Let's see. Yeah. Gotta have that commercial first. Because I know when I'm looking up this kind of shit, I'm like, oh, hey, National University. Yeah, that sounds like a thing I should check out. Palestinians inspect the remains of a house in Jabalaya. My brother's children.
Pieces in front of us. We'll My father and mother were in pieces too. My brother's 2 little girls, children who were born after 18 years of marriage, were also martyred. It was a massacre, a tragedy. And all of this is happening because the world is just watching.
Yep.
No one is asking the Jews, why are you doing this?
I am.
This war is not against Hamas. It's a war against civilians and the innocent.
Yep.
I consider this a genocide or ethnic cleansing leading to displacement. But where is the world in all of this? The people outside see that when an Israeli soldier dies, there is an outcry.
Outcry.
But when we die, it's not a problem. When our children die,
And the
it's
thing
not a
is,
problem.
when he says an Israeli soldier dies, because there are no civilian deaths. There's no videos like this coming out of Israel showing you how a rocket got through and hit the blah, blah, blah and killed this many Jays or whatever. Even, you know, if you've been following this story since October 7th, well, you know, that says a lot. But this shit's been going on forever. I remember back in like 2019 or 20, something like that. It had to be 19. Seth Doan, the Israeli correspondent, was doing this story about some artillery that got through and hit a house where some Jays lived. And they showed the footage, and like they said that the ordnance came through the roof, but it didn't explode. And they showed the hole in the roof, and then they showed like this mark on the floor where it supposedly hit. But if you paid attention, you could see that there was a pickaxe right in the corner of the room. And apparently there was nobody in the room. And you know, and every time they do something like this, they might claim some injuries, some people were lightly injured, but you never hear about Jays dying. And if you do, it's something they'll be like, this 84-year-old woman died when blah 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 happened. Well, is that somebody that was on life support and you convinced the family to pull the plug because, and then, you know, they'll be martyred? Is that it? Because that's how it seems to be. The only people that ever die on the Israeli side of things are people like 2, 4 people who could have been in a car accident, a tragic car accident. And instead of saying that, you know, they were killed in a car accident, because you never hear about Israelis killed in car accidents, they'll pull some bullshit. They'll say some bullshit. And this is across the board. This is what they do. And then they cover it up with the funeral. The funeral will happen that day. This is easily one of the craziest stories I've ever witnessed because it was here. It's one thing when it's over there and the Jays and the Israelis can manipulate the news however they want to, blah, blah, blah. But on October 21st, 2023, a woman named Samantha Wohl, who was a Jay community leader here in Detroit, was found dead between 5:30 and 6:30 a.m. on her front lawn, having been stabbed to death. There were no suspects. There was, you know, nothing was taken from her house. There was no robbery that went down. There was no sexual assault. She just got stabbed, you know, like a scorned lover would have done. Because that's sort of, you know, it's one thing when somebody's stabbed once or twice, but when a person has multiple stab wounds, they say it generally takes passion. It takes feeling to do that. And this woman had multiple stab wounds. Eventually, down the road, her Jay boyfriend called the police and confessed that he might have done it. He thinks he might have done it. He just can't remember doing it. Because he had meds, because apparently he was on psych meds to begin with. And he hit his weed pen 4 times that morning. It was just fake. He didn't he just thought that he might have, so he called the police. He was actually given immunity. He was given immunity when the trial came around because he had hit his weed pen 4 times and taken a double dose of psych meds. And under cross-examination, he failed miserably. But he didn't do it. A black guy, a random black guy named Michael Jackson Bolanos, who was out breaking in the cars that night. Not saying Michael Jackson Bolanos is a good person or anything. But he was arrested a quarter mile away, or 3/4 of a mile away from this broad's house at around the same time. And the J system did everything they could to make him the bad guy. They said they found, he had a black coat on, and they said they found 2 tiny little microscopic droplets of blood on his sleeve on the black coat. Well, if you're stabbing somebody, blood is flying everywhere. You don't get 2 microscopic little droplets on you. You get blood everywhere. But he wasn't, you know, there was a J judge who was violating all protocol they have, interrupting opening speeches, adding charges. You know, when a prosecution goes after somebody, they really only try to charge you with things that they know that they can win. They don't go frivolously and maybe this will work. Maybe they want it to be 100%. So they initially charged him with whatever, murder, I guess, I don't know. But the J judge, insisted that it be a hate crime. You know, all these other statutes put in there, all these other crimes, because, you know, anytime a J is killed, it's a hate crime. Anytime a J complains, it's a hate crime. You knock a hat off of a J, it's a hate crime. Dylan Root, he shoots up a black church while bragging about how racist he is, and we don't know if that's quite a hate crime. We don't know. The guy that shot up the grocery store, we don't know. I mean, he even apologized to the one white person he came across, pointed the gun at, oh, sorry, only targeted black people, but it's not a hate crime. This woman's found dead on her lawn by her neighbors between 5:30 and 6:30 a.m., and it's a hate crime. It's a fucking hate crime. So they went through all this trial bullshit, and the defense actually asked the judge to recuse himself, because if she's a J community leader in the community that this judge lives in, then there's no question that they know each other. But the way this judge was being unprofessional and violating protocol, they asked him to recuse himself, and of course he refused. How dare anybody insinuate that Jays look out for Jays, that Jays are biased towards Jays? How dare anybody ever say anything so crazy? After many, many months of trial, where they tried to get anything they could to stick, the only thing they could actually get is lying to police. So Michael Jackson Bolanos was given 18 months to 25 years for lying to police. Have you ever heard of anything like that before? You ever heard of anybody being sentenced to something so fucking ridiculous? Especially for something so ridiculous, for lying to police? That's all they could get him. But this way they could get him and keep him locked down so his story can't be told. Well, so unless somebody comes to him to tell his story, it can't be told. He can't just go on Facebook and talk about this shit and create a fucking GoFundMe and all this other. He can't do that because he's in prison. 18 months to 25 years. And anything they want to do, they can just extend it. Even when 18 months comes around, if he didn't do anything, they could just be like, nah, we don't think you learned your lesson. And it's insane. But as crazy as all that is, the craziest part is that, again, this happened she was found dead between 5:30 and 6:30 a.m. on October 21st, 2023. The morning edition newspapers on October 22nd, 2023, talked about how beautiful the funeral was and that over 1,000 people attended it. These newspapers are 24 hours, less than 24 hours later. When was there a funeral for somebody that died, was found dead that morning? How does that even work? How do you have a funeral for someone, especially a J community leader? So I would assume they have relatives and friends from all over the place that would want to be at their funeral. Of course, there's no pictures. Of course, there's no nothing. But how, when? What about the murder investigation? What about the autopsy? Because you have to do an autopsy, especially in a murder where you really don't have any suspects or anything. You want to go over the body to see if there's any trace DNA left behind or some bullshit, right? How does the funeral home, what, they didn't have anybody else that day? They just got that hole dug and got the gravestone fucking printed and all that shit, just all of it within what would have to be a couple of hours. Have you ever heard of somebody being murdered and having their funeral a couple of hours later? But this is how they do it. Somebody just dumb enough to call me anti-Semitic. I love when people are that stupid. Semitic refers to all of the people in the region. The Palestinians are Semitic. Syrians, Lebanese, Yemeni, even North Africans like Egypt. Those people are Semitic. Semitic refers to the region. The Jays like to say they own everything, but they don't own that. So if somebody says you're anti-Semitic, that's calling you racist. You're against an entire people from an entire region. Now that I'm home, we can show you. So, anti-Semitism is a completely different thing. Women's softball, LOL. So, we're going to put Semitism, definition, Semitism, definition. We're going to go Merriam-Webster, okay? So
Semitism.
there's no foolery going on here.
Semitism.
It's the Semitism page, Merriam-Webster. Number 1A, Semitic character or qualities. Number 1B, a characteristic feature of a Semitic language occurring in another language. Number 2, policy or predisposition favorable to Jays. You see that? Policy or predisposition favorable to Jays. How many of you think that's the right thing? How many of you think that the rules and regulations, the policy, and the predisposition, how you go into it thinking, before you know anything about it, how you think about it, just given the narrative, hey, this involves a J, well, immediately you think the way you think is favorable to the J. How many of you think that's a good thing? Semitism, which is supremacy. Semitism equals supremacy. When the rules and regulations are in your favor and the thought process, how people go into something is in your favor, that's supremacy. That's how Game of Thrones works. When the prince is obviously lying, everybody backs up the prince because, the predisposition is that the prince is infallible. He's royalty, so it doesn't matter what anybody else says. Like that's what the predisposition means. Why would they get that? Why should they have policy and predisposition favorable to them over anyone else? What did they do to deserve such a leg up on society? Remember when I said earlier, it doesn't matter what evidence I show you? The dumbasses will just come up with something else. Here you go. Here you go. asking simple questions like why should they have policy and predisposition favorable to them, they're not going to say anything. They're not going to address the points being made. I could do this over and over again. You guys want to hear about Katie Johnson? Let's talk about Katie Johnson. Katie Johnson. Well, we're going to have to go Katie Johnson Trump, I guess, because it's already being buried. All the assault allegations against Trump recapped. Here, I'm going to find the actual documentation. Here you go. Again, you're not going to adjust or address that's what we're looking at here. We're looking at the United States District Court, Southern District of Florida, West Palm Beach, case number 23-80101-CR-Cannon. Plaintiff, Donald J. Trump, Waltine Nosta, and Carlos D. Oliveira. This might not even be it. I'm just assuming it is. Former President Trump's motion to dismiss indictment based on, this isn't it. Based on appointment and funding of special counsel Jack Smith is granted in accordance with the order. Okay, so this one isn't the right one. Let's see if we can't find the right one. This is the New York Times, by the way. Is this it? Well, this one is a indictment against Trump for the falsifying business records in the first degree. That's not the right one. Let's see, this one's blurry. Well, it's strange that I can't find it. I mean, I guess it's not, but... Definitely don't want to download a PDF of this. On the third occasion, here you go. On the third occasion involving Donald J. Trump, the plaintiff, Katie Johnson, was forced to engage in unnatural lesbian acts with a fellow minor and sex slave, Maria Doe, age 12, for the sexual enjoyment of defendant Trump. After this sex act, both minors were forced to orally copulate Donald J. Trump by placing their mouths simultaneously on his erect penis until he achieved sexual orgasm. After zipping up his pants, defendant Trump physically pushed both minors away while angrily berating them for the poor quality of their sexual performance. On the fourth and final sexual encounter with defendant Donald J. Trump, the plaintiff, Katie Johnson, was tied to a bed by defendant Trump, who then proceeded to forcibly rape plaintiff Johnson. During the course of this savage attack, plaintiff Johnson loudly pleaded with defendant Trump to please wear a condom. Defendant Trump responded by violently striking plaintiff Johnson to the face with an open hand and screaming that he would do whatever he wanted as he refused to wear protection. After achieving sexual orgasm, Donald J. Trump, defendant, put his suit back on, and when the plaintiff, Katie Johnson, in tears, asked defendant Trump what would happen if he impregnated her, defendant Trump grabbed his wallet and threw some money at her and screamed that she should use the money to get a fucking abortion. These are official court documents. All right? I mean, it's just, and then the message that I'm not gonna be able to find it, but the message that the statement that was released by the Katie Johnson people, talking about, I'm disappointed that nobody is protecting us. We thought we would have some sort of protection in this, and it's not happening, and blah blah blah. We're gonna have to pull out of this because we're scared, and we don't want to keep going with this. Not that, oh, I guess we lied and whatever. This is all everywhere you guys look. I mean, like I said, if I provide you guys with evidence, these clowns aren't going to say or do anything. They're just going to jump to the next excuse. Here, let's look up Team Jorge for you. Team Jorge being one of my favorite ones to look up. So here you go. Here's the Wikipedia summarization of what happened. Because you can go find all the news reports you want. I mean, you're not going to find ABC, NBC, and all that because for some strange reason, the big news organizations didn't feel the need to report this. But Team Jorge is the name given to an outfit, not a suspected outfit, an outfit of Israeli contractors specialized in the use of malign cyber activities, including hacking, sabotage, and bot farm-run social media disinformation campaigns to manipulate the outcomes of elections. So if they can fuck with an election, if they can manipulate the outcome of an election, I would imagine messing with some random dude's YouTube page probably isn't that difficult for them. One of the organization's primary tools is a software package called Advanced Impact Media Solutions, or AIMS. The group was exposed in February 2023, after an award-winning undercover operation by journalists from Israel and France. Ooh, Israel was involved too. As part of a consortium of investigative journalists coordinated by Forbidden Stories. The organization has been active since at least 2015 and boasts of having manipulated 33 presidential elections worldwide, many of them in Africa. Don't worry, many are in Africa. They don't mess with anything here. They're only documented, they're only like on paper having existed since 2015, which is just before Trump was elected the first time. You know how they love to say that Russia interfered with the first Trump election, yet they never show you any examples of how or even why. They just say it happened. And you're just supposed to believe it. Yet they manipulated it so Trump would lose because he still lost. What effect did the Russian manipulation have if Trump ended up losing anyway? But there's actual information and evidence to show that Israel did it. Israel manipulated the whole thing. And yet nobody's even bothering to look. We can't even, and if you look, that's anti-Semitic. That's anti-Semitism. Look, whenever they call something anti-Semitism, they're actually telling you the truth, which is why you should be proud of it. You've been manipulated and tricked into thinking anti-Semitism is a bad thing. It's like racism or something. But as I showed you, Semitism is supremacy. So if you oppose supremacy, you are anti-supremacy, you are anti-Semitism. And it's just that simple. So whenever they say something is anti-Semitism, they're telling you the truth. If you speak out against what they're doing, or you don't fall in line like you're supposed to, you don't just shut up and be quiet, that's what they demand. Their supremacy demands that we are just good little goyim sheep. And if you don't do that, that is anti-Semitism. So be proud of it. Don't let that stupid ass, it's like conspiracy theory, right? Conspiracy theorist. They created this term to have these negative connotations to stop people from talking about the JFK assassination. Because at the time, everybody and their mom was like, yeah, that's bullshit. Even with our nothing technology we have, we know that's bullshit. And so they used the anti-Semitism as a as a foundation. Hey, you know how we do this with anti-Semitism, and we get people to stop talking about things by saying that's anti-Semitism, and then people, oh, no, hey buddy, no, and they just stop talking about it. Well, let's do that with conspiracy theorists. We'll create that. And that's what they did. They created a way to be out in the open, and people are stupid. I'm not anti-Semitism. You think that it's something much worse than it is, and they do that on purpose. Did you guys know that in 2020, conveniently, who they is, decided to have legislation to change the spelling of anti-Semitism from ANTI hyphen capital SEMITISM, which conveniently is how it's spelled with the Donald Trump coalition against anti-Semitism or some shit, like whatever it's called. He doesn't have a coalition against racism. He doesn't have a coalition against Asian hatred or any. But the Jays, not only do they get their own word, but Trump has a faction, has a government faction, an agency that's sole purpose is to combat anti-Semitism. That's it's fucking stupid, but it's spelled the old way, strangely enough, because in 2020 they decided that instead of ANTI hyphen capital SEMITISM, it would now be spelled ANTI SEMITISM, all one word. And their stated reason for doing this was because they didn't want goyim, they didn't want people to think that anti-Semitism opposed something called Semitism. They didn't want us to know that Semitism was a thing. They didn't want us looking at the word and being like, hey, that's two words and there's a hyphen. Hey, what does this mean? They didn't want the average person to go look up what Semitism is. Because how do you, any sort of reasonably intelligent person, how do you hear that Semitism is policy or predisposition favorable to Jays and not read exactly what they're saying? Like, obviously it's supremacy. That's what they're telling you. But their activities were revealed following a 2022 sting operation in Tel Aviv carried out by 3 undercover journalists who posed as prospective clients and filmed their interactions with Tal Hanan, the group's leader and former Israeli Special Forces operative, in which he explained the inner workings of the organization. He used the name Jorge when working with the Hacking and Disinformation Group, which inspired the name Team Jorge. According to Tal Hanan, the group's leader, Team Jorge has existed for more than 2 decades and has been engaged in propaganda and disinformation activities in more than 30 countries. However, its first documented activity dates back to 2015, just before the Trump election. Their services have been available to government intelligence agencies, political campaigns, and private companies that wish to covertly manipulate public opinion. One of the organization's primary tools is a software package called Advanced Impact Media Solutions, or AIMS. The software automates centralized control of thousands of fake social media profiles on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Telegram, TikTok, and others like YouTube. A number of these profiles have Amazon wallets, blah, blah. This group also employs hacking techniques to brute force accounts of potential victims. Look at how I just make all this shit up. You guys see how I'm making all of this up? Blah, blah, blah. Hanan claimed responsibility for a 2019 cyber attack against the Elections Committee of Indonesia, made to look like it had come from China for political reasons. Media outlets, including Bloomberg, reported on the attack in March 2019, noting the probable Chinese-Russian origin of the interference, while an investigation by The Guardian noted that it was more than likely the work of other hackers leaving a false trail. What a coincidence, right? He also claimed that Team Jorge interfered in the 2014 Catalan independence referendum, hacked the emails of the chief of staff of Trinidad and Tobago, and leaked a document to cause a political crisis, passed false information to an ABC journalist to influence the 2012 Venezuelan presidential election against former President Hugo Chavez, ran a 2022 campaign claiming the Polisario Front had ties to Hezbollah and Iran, and another 2022 campaign defaming Ali bin Fatias al-Mari, the UN envoy for combating corruption. Gee, that's weird. Hainan attended meetings involving Cambridge Analytica as early as 2014. Emails linked to The Guardian showed that Team Jorge was then in contact with Cambridge Analytica in 2015 and 17 over political campaigns in Africa and South America. During the undercover meeting with journalists in 2022, Hainan showcased his ability to hack into Telegram account of Dennis Atumbe, a digital strategist for William Ruto, during the 2022 Kenyan general election, and Atumbe subsequently confirmed to the Star that his Telegram account had been infiltrated, and then he noticed increased activity in the run-up to the election. You guys get it? Do you get it? Do you see why there have been the same fake profiles on this feed for 2 hours plus, desperately trying to get my attention, but not actually saying anything of merit? Don't you think that's weird? And it's the same people that don't seem to have a problem with pedophilia, don't seem to have a problem with J slavery and you know, the genocide and all this other shit. Isn't that weird?
I know.
Isn't that weird how it always works out this way? Yep, it's because I'm so entertaining. That's the other thing. Out of everything that exists on YouTube, Facebook, Hulu, Spotify, you name it. Out of anything on the phone, your TV, your DVDs, you know, any movies ever made, any TV shows ever that you now have access to through things like Hulu and shit. Out of everything else in the world, not even electronic, you can go outside and go do something. Go frisbee golfing, go for a walk, go clean your house, go do anything. You could go meet with someone and have a reasonable relationship. You could do anything. You're going to be here because I'm so entertaining talking about killing pedophiles and ending the J slavery, ending the genocide. Boy, that makes sense. That makes sense. And if I'm supposed to be like bothered by the fact that you think I'm that entertaining, that I outweigh everything else in the world, like I guess you're the stupid ass that thinks if you open up the books on Israel, you demonize Israel. You're that same level of stupid. Telling me I'm the most entertaining thing available, it is not like a negative or a knock. Sorry. But this is that same thing like when you try to talk to a Jay and they say, "Oh, well, it's in the Bible." And you say, yeah, it's not in the Bible, but even if it was, I don't believe in that bullshit. Then they immediately go, well, that's anti-Semitism. And you go, yeah, okay, I'm proud of my anti-Semitism because I don't believe anybody should have any sort of supremacy and I think we're all equal. They got nothing else to say after that. It's the same kind of shit. When you point out that the people that are here talking shit must be pedophiles, they must be Israeli Jays, you know, well, basically those two, that they must be pedophiles and or Israeli Jays. You know, it's obvious. You know, it's obvious that that's what it must be. Who else is going to be against me? It's not like they can tell you why they're against me. It's not like they engage in the conversation and make reasonable points and say, hey, I don't like you because you do this. No, I'm so entertaining that they just keep watching day after day, week after week, you know, month after month, and can't actually tell me what I'm wrong about. You know, it's not like they're going to come in here and be like, because we're pedophiles and we don't want people like you to get in any sort of power because that means we die. They're not going to come out here and say that. They're not going to come on here and be like, because we're stupid Israelis and we stupid Jays and we can't actually debunk anything you're saying, so we're trying to make you look crazy. We're trying to gaslight you and make you look crazy. They're never going to say that shit. You just have to look at what they say. How many of these fake troll profiles have even said something like, yeah, I actually agree with you. These pedophiles need to go, or we need to stop this genocide. I just don't like you because of your haircut or whatever. None of them say anything like that. Not one of these people condemns genocide. Not one of these people condemns pedophilia. They're just mad at me for talking about it. Well, who the fuck is going to do that? Who's going to waste hours of their life on somebody they hate so much, days, hours, years at this point in some cases, of their life is wasted on me because I'm so wrong and they can't tell me why. I clearly hate the Jays, and there's guys out there like Alex Rosen, Gordon Flowers, you know. He's a piece of shit Jay. I think he's a racist. I think he's a douchebag. You know, I would never like that dude in real life. But what he does by exposing pedos and getting them arrested and shit, he has all my respect. I might not like the guy, but I like what he does. And because I like what he does, he's going to get my respect and support. Anybody that's against the pedos gets my respect and support. Not these guys. These guys come in and they're mad because of blank, and they want me to stop talking about these things because I'm so entertaining. All makes total sense, doesn't it? Anyway. Go get your free download. www.the-bilderberg, bilderberg-group.com. It's free. It's all you got to do is put 0 in the payment box. When you click download, it'll ask you how much you want to pay. We absolutely appreciate the donations and all that have already come in. We appreciate if you do donate, but we don't require it. All we ask you to do is just share the download with somebody else. You know, they might like it, they might not, but at least you shared it with somebody, and that's all we ask is that you just share it. So keep the donations coming for sure, but just keep the downloads coming, keep the shares coming. This is how we do it. Music is one of the most powerful weapons that exists, and they know it. That's why they don't fucking let, you know, there's no protest songs on the radio. Back in the 70s and shit, then they fucked up. The 60s and 70s where they fucked up and their Laurel Canyon experiment backfired. And you know, like Jim Morrison's dad was the admiral on the Gulf of Tonkin ship that was used in the false flag for the Gulf of Tonkin. Like that kind of shit. Crosby, Stills, Nash. Crosby was a Crosby from the Mayflower, supposedly. Stills and Nash, both of their dads were military men who worked in mind control. You know, there's a reason why all of these anti-establishment groups were given these lucrative record contracts and given all the fame and shit. You know, they were trying to create the hippie. And if you were opposed to the war, you were a dirty hippie. But if you were a good, upstanding human, good, upstanding American, well then, by default, you're going to support the war. That's how they created that narrative. They just fucked up. They underestimated, you know, who the Goyim are. They thought we were the same psychos they were. If they show us war footage, then we're going to want to see more war. That's how they are. I saw this one interview back in 2021 or whatever. 2020, or maybe it's 2019, where one of the times where they claimed that Hamas or whatever bad guy they were using at the time was launching balloons over the wall. We don't talk about the wall, but launching balloons over the wall with incendiary devices on them. And they kept landing in open fields that, they were planning on burning anyway because they were going to build something there. But they kept landing in these incendiary devices kept landing in fields and catching big fires. And they interviewed this one Jay, this Israeli guy, and they said, what do you think we should do about this? And he said, for every balloon that comes over that wall, we should take out one of their buildings. Women, children, whoever, that's the price they have to pay. We'll teach them not to send their devices over the wall. That's how they think of things. When Goyim see other Goyim being hurt, we go, no, stop, that's awful. There's got to be a better way. We don't have to kill people. There's no tenfold response. We're all people here. Those are just dumbass people like me who are slaves to the system above them. And so they fucked up by showing us that shit. But they know that music is our most powerful weapon. And when all of those groups, even though they were the kids of the fucking controllers, started traveling the world and seeing the damage that was being done and seeing the truth, they went against the grain. And so they had to kill them off. They had to kill off the Jim Morrisons. They had to kill off the Jimi Hendrix, who drown in wine. He didn't fucking, what's that? When you puke yourself, puke in your sleep. Asphyxiate, but what is it? Can't remember what it's called. He didn't die from puking in his sleep and choking on his vomit. His autopsy says he drowned in wine. There was wine in his lungs and shit like that. Meaning somebody forced wine into him while he trying to breathe. Janis Joplin, they killed them all because those people were getting too powerful. And right after that, instead of we went from this protest, love, peace, this whole experience to bullshit disco and cocaine and then the me generation and me. And then they brought in rap and they just, at the same time that they gave us gangster rap, which just decimated the black community, it's the same time they gave us grunge music, basically. And as Sebastian Bach, or maybe it was, who's the guy? One of those guys. It wasn't Sebastian Bach. I can't think of, I can picture him, but I can't think of his name offhand. I think he's the lead singer of Poison. They're all just so similar, I can't remember which one it was. But he said that, just look at what 80s rock was. It was, get drunk, get a hotel room, smash it up, bang chicks. It was all about the party. Almost overnight, they transferred it into grunge, heroin. I want to kill myself. My life is so bad. And if you look at the depression boom that happened to coincide with that shit, and it's all there. It's all just manufactured bullshit. NWA's album was released on 8/8/88. They're the greatest boy band ever made. Given M16s and fucking AR-15s and shit, and told to ride around LA while MTV films them and beams them into all the white houses all across the country. Look what they've done with country music. They just created the whole redneck persona. It wasn't like that. When bluegrass first started to get big, classically trained musicians would come down to the South and be like, I want to make some money doing this. And those that controlled the narrative would say, well, you got to put some fucking black stuff on your teeth and put on some overalls, and you're going to be Opie, and you're going to be Gopi, and you're going to be the hee-haw boy. Doop, doop, doo. The Beverly Hillbillies, those are all Jays. Those are all classically trained actors pretending to be these hillbillies who say cement pond instead of pool. It's a pool. It's the cement pond. It's fucking, that's, they created this narrative. Then they gave you Hee Haw, one of the longest running TV shows ever, where again, it's a bunch of Jays playing these dumb fucking rednecks. They understand how powerful this shit is. Music reaches everyone. And maybe you might not understand all the words, but hey, you can print them out and you can get an understanding for what that song's about. Yeah. Music is how we cross all cultures. So go get your free download. www.the-bilderberg-group.com. I think it's like 3 days worth of music. I think that's what, if you were to click play on and just let all of our songs play, I think it would be like 3 days worth, but I could be wrong. I'm also going to leave you a link to Hollywoodism. The only movie YouTube thing I think you should like. Obviously you should watch 6 Million Lies. Obviously you should watch 200 Proofs the Earth is Not a Spinning Ball. You know, to some extent you should watch A Rich Man's Trick and shit like that. Well, Rich Man's Trick actually has one of the most important quotes of any movie, where the guy flat out says, if you're seeing a movie on YouTube or anywhere else, it was put out there by the CIA and FBI. If they don't want it to exist, it won't. But he basically told on him, like, all the other movies are fake, but ours. You know, all the other movies are CIA, but ours. But it's still a good one, and it talks about 9/11, from 9/11 to JFK. It's all A Rich Man's Trick. There are all these movies out there that, yeah, they do pack some good information. Zeitgeist, yeah, to an extent, if you can get over the fact that it's all Jay's giving you the narrative. But Hollywoodism is the absolute one thing you should be trying to find, you should be watching. And I'm going to give you the link to it. I absolutely get no benefit from you watching it. There's no connection. It's a movie by Jays about Jays. It's a movie where they're bragging about how great they are and how they've controlled the world. You know, it's the conspiracy that I talk about, everybody talks about, they brag that they do it. So go watch Hollywoodism and go check out the 2 newest songs, Donald Trump Hates America and COVID Sauce. Putting the links to the videos on Facebook. So again, you can go, if I'm not live here when I'm supposed to be, I'm probably live there. But go like and share that shit. Go help do something. I appreciate you guys being here, no doubt. And I actually appreciate all the pedos being here too. Because as long as they're here being stupid and being the example, they're not out trolling for kids. And that's better than nothing, right? So go to the description. You'll see those things. Website, Hollywoodism link, Facebook links. And have a great day. And most importantly, as always, the most important thing we say on this video is... Pedophiles, kill yourself. Pedophiles, kill yourself.